The original Yooka-Laylee was a very specific product of a very specific era. This was the rise of crowdfunding, and I recall Rare's own Chris Seaver, the voice and talent behind Conker's Bad Fur Day, doing a let's play of that game with his former Rare buddies, and there being talk of going back and doing another one of those games. A proper Banjo-Kazooie 3, Banjo 3E if you would. Some fans, and even those at Rare, still had sour grapes over Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, a perfectly cromulent and very creative game if you ask me. But it just wasn't Banjo 3, and the people demanded Banjo 3. Enter Yooka-Laylee, a game by ex-Rare developers now called Playtonic that takes everything from their Nintendo 64 platformer legacy and attempts to take the next step. Not necessarily a step forward, but a step somewhere regardless. I did not love Yooka-Laylee. It was more of a collection of all of Rare's worst habits. Too many collectibles, questionable character designs, and gigantic levels that never seem to end. A game where it feels like it takes forever to do anything meaningful. A slog. Yooka-Laylee is even worse about this thanks to Playtonic stretching their Kickstarter budget almost to the breaking point. Levels are simply too big and surprisingly empty, with long stretches of nothing as you hike to the next objective. Character designs aren't just questionable, but now actively bewildering. Like, I used to kind of scratch my head about why a bear and a bird were dealing with an evil witch, but you could at least say that it has something to do with fairy tale storybooks. The music even kind of drives this home, too, as Banjo-Kazooie's main theme builds off of the melody from the song Teddy Bear's Picnic. Yooka-Laylee has no such hints towards even vague character design goals. It's just, yeah, here's a chameleon, and he's friends with a bat, and they live on a shipwreck in the forest, and even though they're nowhere near a city, they're fighting against a CEO of a big corporation who just so happens to be a big fat bumblebee named Capital B. This bee's plan is to steal all the world's books and then use them to create the ultimate magical book? What? It's Mad Libs, it's nonsense. And that kind of clumsy randomness is all over Yooka-Laylee. The more I played it, the more bored I became. It was less Banjo-Kazooie and more like what I hated about Donkey Kong 64. On top of that, this was a 2017 Unity game. Now, there has almost always been some degree of hatred for Unity, but not all of it was deserved. Unity is, or at least was, fine. It's not so fine anymore these days, but we don't have time to unpack that right now. But back in 2017, there was nothing wrong with Unity yet. It was just a set of tools, and tools are only as good as the creator using them. And in the hands of a skilled craftsman, Unity could be made to do great things. Unless you were publishing your game on a console like the PlayStation 4 or the Nintendo Switch. Then you had to contend with weird performance problems and input lag. So in addition to Yooka-Laylee trying to replicate the heft of controlling Banjo, there was an extra layer of sluggishness on top of that, thanks to Unity struggling to even hit 30 frames per second on anything besides a desktop PC. So, the original Yooka-Laylee? Not a great game. I'm sure if you have a high tolerance for tedious, slow games, and you really wanted to recapture your memories of playing the Nintendo 64, it might be okay. But not for me, man. Definitely not for me. Despite this, Yooka-Laylee was a success for Playtonic. They established themselves as a developer with that game. And the follow-up, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, was surprisingly fantastic. Rather than take a page from Banjo-Kazooie, instead, Impossible Lair is Playtonic's spin on a game like Donkey Kong Country Returns. And it plays great. I'd even say that Impossible Lair is probably better than Donkey Kong Country Returns. The first Yooka-Laylee and its sequel feel like two different games made by two different companies. One is a clumsy, nostalgia-driven throwback, and the other is just a legitimately great side-scrolling platformer. It's wild. Well, I guess the better half of Playtonic then turned its attention back towards the first Yooka-Laylee, and decided to do a do-over. Take everything that they had learned in the last 8 years, and remake Yooka-Laylee to be faster, stronger, and better. Enter Yooka-Replaylee. Replaylee? Replaylee. Yooka-Replaylee. But true to its word, this is just Yooka-Laylee, but better in every aspect. That's mainly because it has cast off its shackles as a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie and has become something else. It is no longer holding itself to the standards of 1998. If it takes inspiration from anything now, it's Super Mario Odyssey. Every aspect of the game is faster now. You move faster, you turn faster, you accelerate faster. The game just feels tighter overall. And you no longer have to unlock new abilities one by one, level by level, as you start the game with everything unlocked. Many of these abilities have also been rebalanced and have new features too. Like, Banjo-Kazooie had this ability called the Talon Trot, which lets you sprint up steep slopes and run around levels quickly. Yooka-Laylee has its own version of this called the Reptile Rush, but in the original game this was tied to a stamina meter for some reason. Instead of dashing around levels and completing objectives quickly, you'd eventually run out of gas and have to stop and recharge. It was one of a million little problems in that game. Now, in Yooka-Replaylee, you can Reptile Rush to your heart's content, free to race around levels at top speed at all times without the stamina meter. It's great! This is how the game should have been to begin with. Collecting things goes faster too. Your primary collectible in this game are these, sheets of magical paper. Look, the game wants me to call them pages, and I'm not going to do that. And it's not even just the fact that they're called pages, because sometimes you also find a pagey in a cagey, and I cannot sanction that buffoonery. I'm not gonna call it that. I reserve that kind of language for cute kittens and maybe sometimes babies, alright? So, you're collecting these magical book pages, right? But just like the Power Moons from Super Mario Odyssey, collectible pages went from being a rare occurrence to being literally everywhere. You rarely go more than a couple minutes without stumbling on another page to scoop up, either from completing a quest, or a mini-game, or a platforming challenge, or sometimes you just find them laying around in random places. Occasionally, it'll even be more than one page. Just like in Super Mario Odyssey, defeating a boss will give you a special triple page, and many mini-games will allow you to win up to 3 pages at once. Needless to say, you can tear through this game very, very quickly now. I stream this for my audience over on Twitch, and across a roughly 3-hour stream, I finished more than half of Yooka-Replaylee. There are 50 pages in every level, plus another 50 in the hub world, and you only need 120 pages to finish the game. So if you're really diligent, you only really need to play 2 levels before you can head off and face the final boss. There's an argument to be made that this somehow makes Yooka-Laylee worse. Before, every page felt like an event. You really had to work to collect them all and make progress. Now, pages get dumped on you constantly, all the time, letting you skip whole entire worlds if you so choose. And on the surface, that does sound kinda bad. Games are meant to be played, not rushed through. If you skip parts of the game, you're losing content. Somehow. Listen, I've apparently put more than 20 hours into the original Yooka-Laylee, so I can tell you this with certainty. If you want to skip over parts of this game because they're tedious, or annoying, or whatever, it's fine. If there's one thing we've learned over the last 45 years of video games, it's that player choice is always a good thing. Letting players tackle goals in their own way, in their own order, is often heralded as the pinnacle of game design. And the simple fact of the matter is that, to me, the original Yooka-Laylee felt like this depressing grind. Sure, I put 20 hours into the game, but I never finished it. I just got tired of it. Everything took just a little too long, a little too much effort, and it was kind of a drag. On the other hand, with Yooka-Replaylee, I found myself excited to keep playing. Not only did I actually want to finish the game, I wanted to go back and see what I'd missed. That's the hallmark of a good game. It should be celebrated that Yooka-Replaylee makes it easier than ever before to enjoy what's good about this game, whether you only see part of it or all of it. Think of it more like Dragon Ball Kai. That took the original Dragon Ball Z anime and re-edited the whole show to better match the original manga series. All of the long power-up sequences, pointless reaction shots, and scenes of tedious exposition were either shortened or removed entirely. The end result was something significantly faster paced and way more entertaining. What once took more than 100 episodes gets streamlined down to just 50 episodes. Yes, some things get lost in that process, like the filler episode where Goku learns to drive. But it is an overall net positive for the series, and if you ever wanted to watch the original uncut episodes, those also still exist. Dragon Ball Kai did not replace the original Dragon Ball Z anime. The same is true of Yooka-Replaylee. This is simply a trimming of the fat. A faster game that gets right to the best parts, and I would say makes them even better. Even the story has been improved for whatever that's worth. We learn that Yooka and Laylee are seafaring adventurers that shipwrecked on this island months ago. We see them first discovering the magical book, and there's a much better and much funnier motive behind Capital B's evil plans. Instead of doing the generic villain thing and hassling Yooka and Laylee for their magic pages, Capital B's scheme is instead to let the pair assemble the book for him and then steal it after they're done. Leaning into that kind of silly hubris really helped make this adventure feel more fun overall, and helped endear me to these characters a lot more. And just like with Dragon Ball Kai, Yooka-Replaylee is not replacing the original game. If you really want the classic Yooka-Laylee experience with its slippery controls, sluggish pacing, grungy visuals, and all those stupid quiz game segments, you can still buy that. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's still there. If I had one complaint about Yooka-Replaylee, it's the level design. A lot has been done to fill out its big, empty levels with more detail and a greater variety of objectives. But some levels, like the Moody Maze Marsh, are still kind of difficult to navigate. That level in particular is really easy to get lost in. There's kind of a main loop you can get very easily stuck inside of. This is due to a quirk in the original Yooka-Laylee, where after collecting enough stuff inside of a level, you could pay to expand its size and make the level even bigger. All the levels in Yooka-Replaylee are already expanded to their maximum size, but that main loop in a level like the Marsh is a leftover of the stage's original smaller size. But getting stuck like that is usually solvable by popping open the map, another new addition for Yooka-Replaylee. Though a level like the Marsh can be a little confusing to navigate, the map can be a lifesaver for helping you get where you need to go. When they're all taken together, I would argue that the changes made to Yooka-Replaylee give the game a stronger sense of its own identity. No longer does it exist in the shadow of games from 1998. Now it feels more like a proper modern 3D platformer. Sure, some of that identity is also just stealing from the most recent Mario game, but that's more of a time-honored tradition than trying and failing to replicate the vibe of your own games from 20 years ago. Yooka-Replaylee feels a lot more confident in itself than the original game did. If you're a Banjo-Kazooie fan, I suppose it's a little sad that this game is no longer trying to wear its crown or continue that legacy. But then, the original Banjo-Kazooie was clearly just a reaction to Super Mario 64, wasn't it? If they really did make a new game like that today, wouldn't it be updated for the standards of the era? So, which would you rather have? A game that's purely nostalgic, or a game that exists in the moment? Would you rather feel like a kid again, or have fun as an adult? There's nothing wrong with wanting to be nostalgic every now and then, but when it comes to the original Yooka-Laylee versus this new remake, I'd rather play Yooka-Replaylee. It's just a good game, no qualifiers or nostalgia needed. Hey, thanks for watching the video. It's a bit of a shorter one this time around, but I was trying to make a tighter deadline than usual as I was sent this key by a PR firm representing Playtonic. I'm not usually important enough to swing review copies like this, but I got this one. So big thank you to them for that, especially for how long it can take me to put together even a simple video these days. I'll have a channel update video out soon to talk about what's been going on with me recently, but until then, don't forget that you can help support me either by subscribing to my Patreon, paying for a premium membership right here on YouTube, or even donating directly through a service like Ko-fi. This is still my only income source for the time being, so even $1 matters. A big thank you to current supporters like Ed Boy, So Fox, Gadget Feather, Mark Bradshaw, Juan Pablo, Minka Cola, Dragon, Logan A, Setsune Wave, Keith Stack, Connor F, Big, Melko Driggs, This Dorky Guy, L, and Race Pro UK over on Patreon, plus Nick Noobles, 0454, Dryer Locket 7477, Jack the Infinite 101, and Adam Lotcher over on YouTube. And actually, this is off script a little bit. I was looking, YouTube shows me like statistics on people who pay for my YouTube subscription thingy, the premium membership. Jack the Infinite, man, you've been leaving comments like 16 years on my YouTube channel. You're a real one. You're an old bee. I mean, there's more old bees in here. They knew who they are, Minka Cola and Keith's an old friend of mine, Big's an old friend of mine. Anyway, it was really wild to me to see that, like, YouTube showed me comments from you from 16 years ago. Wow. If anyone out there is listening to this also wants to throw me a couple bucks or two, links on how you can continue to help me make this show are down below. And I'm thinking of maybe trying and putting like a QR code up on screen at some point. It might be scrolling across the screen right now. It might have been earlier. I don't know. And if you can't spare the money, like giving this video a thumbs up and sharing it with your friends helps the YouTube algorithm push my video out to more people. I'll see you folks on another video soon. I've got a Shadow Generations review I've been trying to get out for almost the entire year, on top of a couple of other projects that are sort of waiting in the wings. Stay tuned.